Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us here today at MetroSafe. We're here to talk about a program that we've worked aggressively on, known as the Electronic Subpoena and Court Notification Program. And I say we, by the time the press conference is over, you'll understand why there's so many folks that are represented here in the room and representing certain organizations that have been with us and will continue to be with us throughout the evolution of this e-subpoena approach to court notification. When you look at the way subpoenas are currently served, using multiple systems with an old, antiquated, paper-driven method of issuing them, and then you look at what you're going to see, the first phase of the system that we're rolling out now, the electronic approach, it's amazing. And it's amazing that fortunately, we've been able to do that as of this point in time. The information this new e-subpoena system will put out, it literally will be at the user's fingertips and will improve by leaps and bounds everything that we've been able to do in terms of subpoenaing. Now, it took an unprecedented amount of collaboration, and you've heard me speak often about only through collaboration and communication can we all work together to ultimately get to the goal line. And I want to take a moment to thank the Administrative Office of the Courts. I want to thank the Louisville Metro Criminal Justice Commission. I want to thank the Jefferson County Circuit Court Clerk's Office, and I saw the Circuit Court Clerk is here, David. I want to thank the Jefferson County Attorney's Office, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, the Public Defender's Office, Louisville Metro Police Department, and Metro Technology Services with our Director, Beth Niblock. All cooperating together, all sharing information and ideas to get us to the point we are today. In the final testing phase of the system, looking to literally launch its first phase right after the first of the year. It will start with the LMPD and the hundreds of subpoenas that officers are served daily. With the new e-subpoena system, for the first time, an LMPD officer's schedule can be viewed prior to requiring or to requesting a court appearance to ensure that his or her availability, information that was not readily available in the process beforehand. Officers will be notified immediately when a subpoena is issued and when court dates are rescheduled. And following the LMPD component of this system, other law enforcement partners and civilian subpoenas will also go live on our electronic system. The system was funded by $480,000 in federal stimulus money. It will become a model for other communities statewide to join and learn from and ultimately implement, as well as it meets the best practice model across the country. Chief White's been working on this for quite a while. He's here today to discuss the impact of the program on the department. And Chief, would you come and say a few words, please? Good morning.
Good morning. Actually, I think the mayor pretty much hit on the highlights, and I think the presentation, which is going to be done by Sergeant Hellinger, is going to pretty much answer most of your questions. But I did want to kind of reiterate something the mayor stated. The reason that this is a success is because of the willingness of all of our partners to get on board. This is not something that LMPD could have done by itself. So first I want to thank the mayor for really having the vision of helping us identify the funds to do this. You know, our court system has been a challenge to the men and women in our police department and to many of our other partners in the judicial system for well over 20 years. I think this will be the culmination of fixing a problem that's been in place for 20 years. As you all well know, a couple years ago, it was brought publicly to the attention of the community of the number of cases that have been dismissed. Some has been on the part of the officers not showing up. Some of it's just been a convoluted process where there's been inability to get court continuances on time to the officers, inability to get subpoenas on time, inability of all the different partners that play a significant role in those officers getting those subpoenas on time, the inability of us communicating together so that information get out expeditiously. E-subpoena is addressing that issue. We've done some other things prior to e-subpoena as it relates to getting the officers' attendance, which we have done, which My staff has done a phenomenal job on as it relates to that. This is the last piece of that puzzle. I envision, and we're going to have a trial period for the month of January where we're going to continue to use the old system along with using the new system to make sure we get out any flaws in the process. But I envision this pretty much closing, putting a period on the problems that we've had as relates to courts, subpoenas, continuances for well over 20 years in our police department. So, Mayor, I certainly want to thank you for your vision. And like you, I want to thank all of our partners for their willingness to get on board.
Thank you, Chief. Should I turn this down? Is there on the left? Okay. I want to do a demo for you all so that you can see it. And we've got Sergeant Hellinger with us, Brian Hellinger, who will show us how the program's going to work. Sergeant, you're on. And then if you have any questions, we'll go from there.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Chief, Colonels, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Hellinger. I'm report to the Court Liaison Office. I'm one of the Court Liaison Sergeants over at the courthouse. I'm going to talk about the current process that we have right now. The paper process, which is antiquated and inefficient. We're going to save costs for printing, couriers, handling. Subpoenas from multiple sources are coming in from different angles. It's all going to be integrated into the new Court Notify system. No integration between systems. There's multiple systems that we currently use in the courthouse right now. None of them communicate. None of them talk. Certain people only have access to certain systems. That's all going to be integrated in the new system. No visibility into the subpoena cycle. Once our officer receives the subpoenas and we issue them out to the divisions, they're very difficult to track. We don't know where all they're going. No visibility into officer availability. Currently, the prosecutors have no idea what the officer's schedule is going to be before they set a court date. The new system is going to give that information to them. Delays for receipt of subpoenas, again, it's a mailed process. Once our office picks up the subpoenas, we interdepartmental mail to each division or unit. That's going to be eliminated. It'll be an instantaneous electronic subpoena. Missed court appearances, we are currently tracking missed court appearances, but this system is going to help us track it even better, more efficiently. Difficult to track attendance, same thing, and limited reporting. There's very few reports that we can pull out of the current system. The current technology, AOC, Kentucky Courts and CourtNet, the CAO case management, PeopleSoft, the system, Subpoena Tracker, which is our in-house system where we track our subpoenas. The Call to Court is the system that allows our officers to sign in and out for court. And the Police Administration Manager, PAM, is how we track our schedules and our pay. All that's going to be integrated into one system. The challenges were required funding, required court case information from multiple sources, including KY courts, the CAO case management, handwritten subpoenas, required officer schedule information. Again, this was not available to the prosecutors or the defense attorneys when they're trying to set case dates. The impact of current payroll process, required agreements across agencies, and I can tell you firsthand, I've been in multiple meetings where several representatives from the agencies in this room have all collaborated together. Required infrastructure and support. These are the participating agencies, and I know the mayor mentioned some of these. The Administrative Office of the Courts, the Jefferson County Circuit Court Clerk's Office, the Jefferson County Attorney's Office, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the Public Defender's Office, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, of course, LMPD, Louisville Metro Finance. So the future state, where we're headed. Subpoena processed electronically. Online processing, notification, and acknowledgement. So there's no more of that delay. There's no delay of a prosecutor issuing a court date, the clerk's office printing the subpoenas, we picking them up, mailing them out, officers are getting them. It's an instant thing. As soon as it's issued, it shows up on their calendar. We're going to show you a couple screenshots here shortly. Single source for subpoena generation. Currently, our office is the one that handles all the subpoenas for LMPD, and we do get several other subpoenas from ABC Court, parole board hearings, several other things that go through our office. We'll actually be entering them in the Court Notify system, so it's all in one system. Total visibility into the subpoena cycle. In the system, we'll show you everything is tracked. Every click of the mouse is tracked, who clicked it, who acknowledged it, so there's total accountability. Total visibility and the officer availability. Again, we're going to show you a view of the officer's calendar, what the prosecutor or the officer is going to look at each day. Eliminates delays for receipt of subpoenas. Again, there's no process of mailing them out. Escalations for accountability. If an officer does not acknowledge the receipt of their subpoena in a set number of days, it will automatically escalate to the supervisor. So that sergeant's going to get a notification that, for instance, Officer Hellinger did not acknowledge this subpoena. The supervisor's then going to deal with the officer and say, you need to acknowledge your subpoenas. Tracks and reports on attendance. Agency Web, again, Agency Web Court Notify. Agency Web is the, it's going to replace PAM, the personal accountability. That's going to track all your payroll and everything else. Integrates with the AOC, Kentucky Courts, CAO, Case Management, and PeopleSoft. Currently, none of these systems communicate to each other. In the new system, it's all going to communicate together. It eliminates the subpoena tracker that we currently use. It eliminates the call to court process, which is the system where all officers sign in and out for court, and eliminates the Police Administration Manager, PAM, because all that's going to be integrated in the new Agency Web and Court Notify. How were the challenges met? Funding was obtained. The AOC to integrate KY Court for case information, Court Notify to return notification result. The CAO to integrate grand jury cases. Handwritten subpoenas to be entered into Court Notify, which again, that'll be done by our office. Officer schedule information will be available. Payroll data integration. Agreements across agencies, infrastructure, and support in place. I'm going to show you a couple of the screenshots, and we'll talk briefly about these. This is the easy access to data. This right here is a screen that shows several different things. You've got results display, simple views. You can look at this, a simple view in the system. You can expand those views by clicking on different icons, and it'll give you more information. It'll tell you witnesses, officers, more detailed information. And this is exactly what this is the first screen an officer is going to see after they log into the system. It's going to give you how many subpoenas you have issued to you, whether they're considered short notice, whether they're escalated, if they've been acknowledged with an exception. It's going to break down the calendar. Here's a small view of my calendar. Each one of these highlighted yellow screens right here is a subpoena that I have not acknowledged yet. If I had clicked on one of those and acknowledged it, it would turn green on my calendar instantly, so I know that I've acknowledged that subpoena. If you look right down here, this is another screenshot. This tells me I've got subpoenas for these dates, these times. There's a note on this one. I have not acknowledged these. I can click on each one and acknowledge it separately, or I can click on this button right here, acknowledge all, and it acknowledges every subpoena for me. I even know which ones have been escalated. So this could have been a short notice subpoena. It could have been issued within 5 days, and it automatically notifies the sergeant, hey, I've got court within 5 days, but the system will tell me that. For the front office, we've got the police command staff can review subpoena status by supervisory groups. I can look and see what units, what kind of subpoenas they're receiving, how many have been short noticed, how many have escalated where the officers haven't done what they were supposed to do, or if it was a short notice subpoena that the escalations went out. I can see how many they've acknowledged. I can see how many they've acknowledged with an exception. And I'll just briefly talk about acknowledged with an exception. The acknowledged with an exception is what we currently have, which is a case continuance request. The system is called an exception. As an officer, I can't go into the system and say I want a continuance for this case. I have to go to my supervisor and say I have vacation or there's a conflict for the court date. The supervisor is the only one that can enter and acknowledge with exception. And again, the courts get notified of that through a highlighted note when they go to that view of that case, and it tells them there's a problem with the officer being here and whatever the reasons are. Also, we've got one last thing here, the reporting. This is the reports that are available in the system. You've got the calendar view. So if I'm a prosecutor and I want to see what an officer's schedule is going to be real quick, a couple clicks, I can hit calendar view, put in the officer's name. It's going to give me the thing. It's going to show me their calendar. I've got court tracker, daily documents, document assignments, multiple appearances. That's another thing that's neat about this system currently that we don't have is that our officers get stretched pretty thin in a lot of different courtrooms each day. There's officers that will have 4 or 5 cases on the docket a day. They'll be in different courtrooms. the system's going to notify the prosecutors that there's a conflict. This officer's in multiple courts this day. So hopefully that will cut down on an officer not being in a courtroom when a case is being handled because they're in another courtroom on a case. So there are several different reports that, again, we don't have currently, we don't have access to today in the process that we have. Do you want, Yvonne, do you want to show them what the system looks like? This is again, just bear with us, this is a testing program, but this is how the officers are going to log in each day. They'll come in, they'll put their username, their password, and they'll select, obviously, LMPD for our officers. We've put some test data in here. As you can see this is my calendar for the month. I've got several cases that I have acknowledged. I've got I've got one here that I haven't acknowledged yet in the system. Again, if I want to make that calendar bigger, Yvonne, will you make it full view? That pulls up the calendar that the officer or the prosecutors can see. We don't have any of the information for shifts and stuff in this testing program right now, but I've got all my information. Again, I can click on each one of these cases, and it's going to give me more information about that case for that day. Again, as an officer, I can now go in and search my cases and pull up additional information that's not available to me today. We good, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, we're
okay,
good.
Great.
Just hang tight, just in case. Again, thank you, Sergeant, and keep in mind David Nicholson and the County Attorney and the Commonwealth Attorney and the Criminal Justice Commission, and goes on and on and on. It's been a team effort, and that's the only way you generally get to the goal line. We're about the 5-yard line, I guess, moving toward the goal line, and using an appropriate metaphor, I guess. And we'll answer any questions. We'll roll this out in January using the double system, keeping the paper working as well as the electronic. We thank the IT. Where'd Beth go? Did she leave? Beth, thank you for all your work and your team. And thanks to the Obama stimulus money. It's amazing what $500,000 can do to be able to provide an opportunity for this all to come together. Any questions?
When this rolls out in January, will it be fully operational for the police department?
It would be for us, yeah. Yes, it will be for us. But again, go ahead.
It is going to be fully operational, but we're going to continue both processes, a checks and balance thing. We're going to continue issuing paper subpoenas through the older system, and we're going to still use the new system as well until we make sure that there's no bugs that need to be worked out.
But there's not going to be any features that you add on later. This will be what the police department uses all of.
Unless there's something we need to tweak once we get it out rolling, if there's something that we need to improve. But currently, this is what we're going to be using.
Have the officers, or will the officers have training for this system?
Yep. Yes, sir, they will. We're going to offer training at the training academy. We've already trained first-line supervisors, given them some brief training on this. So we're going to have some links as well. I believe, Yvonne, will have some links that I've got right now, being in the court office, that it's a PowerPoint presentation, shows you step-by-step on what you need to do.
Chief, I'm just wondering, this is a very complicated process as it exists right now. We're just talking about multiple systems, and obviously you get stuff sent in the mail and scheduling conflicts. Is it still an issue to try and get your officers reported?
No, I think that the last year and a half, we have changed a lot of our policies, have been a little bit more demanding, accepted fewer excuses, coordinated, which is probably very critical, and I can't overemphasize that enough, really communicated better with our other partners, the county clerk, the Commonwealth Attorney, the U.S. Attorney's Office, and helping us make sure that the officers are where they need to be. This is going to help eliminate some of the confusion. We're pretty much already eliminated the excuses through some things that we've done. And this is, like I said, this is really the final piece, I think. And I would tell you that we're going to go from perhaps a problem that might have been significant for the last 20 years to a problem that would be very, very insignificant. I would be surprised if we have more than 5% no-shows in court, compared to if it was at a 40% now, and it's not. It's going to be cut down significantly. You know, this, simply put, this really connects all the dots. The officers are going to get immediately notified when they get a subpoena, which has been a problem in the past. And if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, their supervisor gets immediately notified. And by the way, even if the officer does what he or she's supposed to do, the supervisor still has the ability to review this. All the partners in the court system now will have the officer's schedule. So when they send out subpoenas and they're dealing with continuances, they'll see what that officer's schedule is. And if they do something that conflicts with that, that supervisor will know, and then we can resolve that jointly together. So it sounds complicated, but I tell you, and everybody's going to get training on it, and we've already started it. And I suspect that once everyone is trained, in 4 or 5 months down the road, because it's new, so obviously it's going to take some adjustment, this will be a great process, and it'll be something that everybody will be pretty much on board with, compared to what we're doing now.
What's the bigger picture in terms of the court system? Fewer dismissals, cases, shorter time, start to finish?
It'll do away with a lot of the ambiguity. There will be, you know, currently, like as the mayor and I and Sergeant had mentioned, we have so many partners, and everybody has a different process on how officers get notified and when they get notified. This is a paperless process. Maybe it's about the best way of doing that. An officer gets a subpoena. It goes through a whole bunch of people before that officer gets it. And then the sergeant will give it to that officer in their roll call. And sometimes the officer won't get it back to the sergeant. It's a very convoluted process right now. This eliminates that completely. We have clerks that have a full-time job of dealing with subpoenas. They will no longer have to do that. They will be doing something else. You get notified immediately. Sergeants are notified immediately. The attorneys are notified immediately. And if there's an issue, it immediately flashes up and it's addressed immediately before the trial occurs. And that's what we have to do. What we want is to make sure that these officers are attending court. They go through the exercise of making arrests. We want to make sure that those individuals that are getting arrested have their day in court. And it's not as a result of negligence on our part that they get out of jail. And this is going to help fix that problem.
What's the computer access like for your 1,200 plus officers? They all have mobile data terminals?
Every officer has the ability, has access to a digital computer.
Talk about practically in court. Let's say we have to have a suppression hearing for defendant Joe Smith. Is the idea that the prosecutor would then be able to pull this up on their computer in court, and they would be able to see that we need an officer there and he's not available until next Wednesday? I mean, how does it practically work in the court?
Well, the prosecutors will have access to this. They currently have computers in the prosecutors' rooms right now. They'll have access to this program just like we would. I'd be able to log into the system. If I'm going to issue, we're going to have a suppression hearing, and it's going to be 3 days from now. Well, currently, the officer's probably not going to get the subpoena in our old system with 3 days' notice. This is going to be an instant notification. They can pull up my schedule and say, he's available on Tuesday. Let's do the suppression hearing Tuesday at 1 o'clock. They hit a couple buttons, and it sends it out. When I come into work and I sign into the system, it's right there in front of me that we have a suppression hearing on Tuesday.
Mr. Mayor, was this...
You want to say anything? David? You want to say anything about from the circuit clerk's point of view? David Nicholson, as you know, is the circuit clerk and has been actively involved with us through this, and you certainly see it every day.
Thank you, Mayor. Really what I want to say is, as an advocate for technology, is to thank the mayor and our police chief because I think you will realize very shortly in 2011 what this will revolutionize our courts in getting the necessary parties there before the court to transact the business and address the community's needs. So really all I wanted to say is this is a tremendous advancement for our court system, and under the leadership of certainly the mayor and with our chief, this would not have occurred. We would not have been able to have gone after the Obama money and taken advantage of that stimulus money. They know through the Criminal Justice Commission what our needs are in our courts, and I'm just glad that we're able to be here with our other justice partners to play a small part in seeing this revolutionary technology. It's about getting the people to the courts. And I think you will see, hopefully, very quickly in the first quarter of 2011, the success that this has done for our community. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, David. David has been a strong advocate around the Commonwealth circuit clerks for technology implementation, and we've appreciated working with your staff and your team. You were going to ask a question, I'm sorry.
Is this a competitive grant, and is this something that Mr. Johnstone did?
It was within the Johnstone process, and it wasn't competitive. It was an allocation of funds that could have been used here or elsewhere, and we made the decision that the commitment ought to be made to this approach.
What's the expansion plan for this? Is it going to go for civil subpoenas?
It has the potential to be able to go all the way through civil subpoenas. That's at the end of the process, as I understand it. You know, we've got all these other individuals to get on. We've got the process to work with the police department, the sheriff's department, prosecutors, Commonwealth attorney, county attorney, et cetera, and the circuit clerk. So we've got a lot to do, but before we get to the civil subpoenas. But it has the capability, if that's your question. This software has the capability to do just that.
Mr. Mayor, this begins your last week as mayor. Any unfinished business? And is this your last news conference, or might we see another one before the week?
Unless it snows, you know, like Christmas Eve when we pulled the crews out at triple time. So, yeah, this probably will be. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Sergeant Hellinger, I noticed Newark PD, a couple of your examples there. Are they using this, or is anybody else using it, and how's it working for them?
Again, each agency is going to have to set that up themselves, but we're going to be using it. I believe the sheriff's, actually you can ask our representative from Orion right back here, and he can expand upon that.
New York City. You use New York City.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was that your question?
No,
About New York City?
No, Newark.
Oh, Newark. I'm sorry.
Newark Police Department.
Oh, Newark.
Are they using it, and is anybody else using it? How's it working?
I'm going to let him come up as our representative from Orion. He'll be able to answer those questions for you better.
Mr. Mayor.
What?
Thank you.
I
Appreciate it. Good morning. I'm Rusty Byers. I'm the Vice President of Sales with Orion. To answer your question specifically, Newark is using the system. They've been live for about 4 months now, and they're actually looking at actual total return on investment in the system within 2 months, just in overtime savings.
And how much did their cost?
They were $438,000. So very similar to you guys. Across the country, you have agencies such as Dallas County with about 60 agencies. You also have Miami-Dade, which is over 102 agencies in that county that are running the system. They've actually private labeled the system and are calling it e-Notify to take on an earlier project that they had that ceased, and they carried on with our product. So there's about 70 agencies nationally running the product.
Is there any way to measure the success rate of the end result of all of this?
Well, the easiest way is the reduction of overtime. And as was mentioned earlier also is getting the right people at time. Taxpayers are paying a lot of money for you guys to get people to the courts to take these cases to fruition, and the system will do that. So you'll be able to, through some of the reports that Sergeant Helton showed, actually show getting people to court on time. You'll be able to show statistics on completing cases, and you'll also be able to show overtime reports that reflect cost savings.
How does it reduce overtime exactly?
Typically, an officer would show up to court. If a case was continued, an officer ends up maybe staying there for 3 or 4 hours. They get some overtime. They end up going back on duty. It's wasted time for them. If they're not needed, then the system will automatically notify them that they're not needed. That's just one simple way right there. So just the reduction in that overtime cost alone is a big plus in the system.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Doug, there must be some role, we didn't mention EMA. Is there some role you played? Should we thank you too? Or are you just hosting us?
I'm just trying to see how good it is based on the Pony Express system I'm using.
Back when you were chief, they used the Pony Express. That's good, that's good. Anybody else? If I don't see you, happy and healthy and peaceful New Year.